morning, friends. Today I will be talking about one of the most important tasks in the battery of group tasks, that is command task. Command task is one of the most important tasks in the confirmatory series. The purpose of the command task is twofold. First purpose of the command task is to reconfirm the query areas which are there in the mind of the GTO. In the basic series task, when your entire group of 8 candidates were working together, the GTO got some traces after seeing your behavior. Perhaps this is the doubt in my mind, but he could not interfere or intervene and get his doubt cleared. So he waited for the confirmatory series, and now is the time for him to confirm his doubts. For example, when this candidate was working in the progressive group task, I found that he is avoiding the tall structures. He's not climbing up on the tall structures, but wherever the structures are short, he is very comfortable, performing well. So the doubt comes in the mind of the GTO, is it because of fear of height or is it because of lack of opportunity? What exactly is the reason for this candidate to show a behavior of this kind? So he kept his doubt with him, and when he took him to the command task, he gave him a task where the structures were pretty tall, and he said, "Commander, this is your task. This is not the group task. You are the commander for this task." And here also he found that the candidate did not climb on the tall structures. He made his helpers climb everywhere. And his doubt further got confirmed in the individual obstacles, where he avoided all the obstacles where height was involved. And this is how he will be confirming his doubt. Definitely this candidate has some sort of fear of height. It means he lacks courage somewhere, right? So this is what I mean when I say to confirm the query areas, GTO will be giving him this task called command task. And the second purpose of the command task is to ascertain the absolute level of the candidate. So far I have seen his level as relative level. In the group of 8 candidates, he was performing somewhere in the middle. There were other people who were more effective than him. Now is the time for me to ascertain what exactly is his individual level, his absolute level. If I am not recommending this candidate, then how many marks out of 225 I am going to give this candidate? Or if I am recommending this candidate, then how many marks am I going to give him out of 225? 90 or 95 or more than that? What exactly is his absolute level? Individual level is bande ka kya hai? This is what I am going to ascertain in the command task. Now the second thing, which is very important for us to know, is how a command task is allocated to a particular candidate. Again, there are two queries, there are two inputs which are taken into consideration while allocating a command task to a candidate. The first input is, what was my query area? Right, that will decide the nature of the task. Right, whether this candidate was showing very shy, timid kind of a behavior, then definitely I will give him a task where he'll have no choice but to work with his own hands. Or if, as I mentioned, if it was a fear of height, then I will make sure that he's given a task where the structures are pretty tall. This is what I mean when I say the query area kya tha. That is what is going to decide the nature of the task and the complexity of the task, not the difficulty. As I mentioned earlier, there are two categories of tasks: difficult task, complex task. Difficult tasks are those tasks which require you to exert physically more, and complex tasks are those which require you to exert mentally more. So what exactly is the complexity of the task? That will depend upon what was his position in the overall basic series rank rating. Was he the most effective candidate in the first 4 tasks? In the basic series, was he contributing maximum? His participation was good. His attitude which he displayed was also fairly good. He was the one who was binding the group together. He was the one who was consistent with his performance. He was the one who was leading the group from the front. What exactly is his way of working was, and where does he stand in the overall basic series rank rating? That is what is another input that is going to be taken into consideration while allocating the command task to the candidate. So before the task commences, GTO will make you stand in front of him as per your chest numbers in the numerical sequence. The lowest chest number will always be towards the left of the GTO, and the highest will always be towards the right of the GTO. And that is the time the GTO will brief you about this task called command task. Listen to the briefing attentively. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier you worked in a bigger group, thereafter you worked in a smaller group, where each one of you had the same say as to how a task could be done. At times, some of you might have felt differently to the plan of action adopted by your group, but because it was a group effort, so you thought it's better to go along with the group rather than impose your own ideas on others. Now, this task called command task will give you an opportunity of doing the task in your own way without anyone else questioning you or interfering with you. Each one of you by turn will be nominated as commander for the task, and task in this case will comprise of only one obstacle, like an obstacle of PGT with similar rules. And time available with each commander to execute the task will be 15 minutes. Now, those of you who are chosen as commanders will have the choice of helpers from the remaining group members. Depending upon the task, you can ask for 2 or 3 helpers. Once those helpers are made available to you, you will be left free to do the task in your own way. Nobody will question you, nobody will interfere with you. Those of you who are chosen as helpers by the commander will follow commander's instructions. After all, the task is that of commander, so it's fair that his wishes are carried out unquestioned. So the helpers will not do anything directly or indirectly on their own. They will not even speak a word unless otherwise specifically asked by the commander to speak or do something. Now, all of you will get back into your candidates' waiting room. At random, I'll call you one by one, show you your task, and thereafter I will ask you whom would you like to call as your helpers. The moment you give me the chess number of the helpers, those helpers will be made available to you and you will be left free to do the task. For some reason, if I'm not able to give you a particular helper, I will let you know that. And that situation is only one when the helper whom you're calling is coming next for the same task. Barring this condition, you will get the helpers of your choice. Is this clear? Any doubts? Okay, all of you can go back to your candidates waiting room. Now after that, when the GTO calls the candidates for the command task, right, he will be calling them in random order. This is a myth that I was called in the last, so it means I was about to get recommended. No, the GTOs know this, that this is the word which is being spread around amongst the candidates. The person who's being called last is going to be recommended. The person who's given more complex task is going to be recommended. The person in whose case the complexity was raised by the GTO by denying you structures, by denying you helping materials, or by denying you helpers, it means he's going to get recommended. There is no such thing, right? Every detail about the nuances of the command task I will be explaining you in my next video. Thank you.